Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Solid Edge webinar series put on by Design Fusion. This is session one. For those of you in the East Coast, um, you're probably into your third or fourth cup of coffee already. For those of you in the West Coast, it's fairly early. Thank you for joining us. Today's session will be on the Solid Edge interface, tutorials, and help sections. This is the overview. So this is very rudimentary training designed for everyone who does not know Solid Edge. It's designed primarily for managers who just want to understand what their employees are doing, how they're using the software, and perhaps even make some simple changes or investigate into the software themselves. For new employees, this is a great introductory to it. For prospects, anybody who is interested and maybe looking at getting into using Solid Edge, or any other interested individuals, I'd like to emphasize that this does not replace our fundamental course. Our fundamentals course without sheet metal is 5 days, and the 2-day fundamental course for sheet metal. So that's 7 days, and we're going to be doing that in 9 hours. So obviously, you will not be an expert after this, but it will introduce you to the capabilities of Solid Edge. And at the end of the course, students will know how to do some very basic tasks and will be much better prepared to do the self-training tutorials. This is the schedule. Our initial schedule had us doing one on this Friday. We realize now that that's Good Friday, being sequestered in our homes. Sometimes we forgot about Easter. So we've bumped that. So this Friday, we will not be running a session because it's Good Friday, but we will pick up on the Monday and do 5 next week. So it's 4 this week, 5 next week. The on our webpage, if you go to the webpage and click on the big orange COVID-19 link, that'll take you to the schedule with the links into each meeting is listed there. Each session is a PowerPoint presentation embedded with demonstrations and videos. At the end of the session, you will be shown a page of links to downloadable activities and tutorials, as well as alternate sources for more information. There will be a Q&A time at the end of each session, so please save any questions until the end. There'll be an email there that you can email your questions in, or I'll open up the mics and try to answer any questions online. We do have a set time for the meeting, so we can't go too deep into questions. So please make sure these are session-related questions. If we're doing interface, I'm not going to tell you how to build a motor in an assembly. That's not what this course is for. This presentation is being recorded and may be rebroadcasted later on. If you are new to Solid Edge and would like to get a trial version, you can get a trial version from Siemens. I believe it's good for 45 days. You can go to this link here, or you can just Google Solid Edge trial version or Solid Edge free trial, either or. And it'll take you to this page. They will ask you for information in here. If they ask you what reseller you're dealing with, please put in Design Fusion. If you don't put in any reseller, you'll be bombarded with email from Siemens. If you put in Design Fusion, you still may get a few emails, but not as many. Okay, so let us begin. So we're going to look at getting started with Solid Edge. We are showing Solid Edge 2020. The interface has been the same pretty much since back to ST. So since about 2008, we've had the Microsoft interface. So if you're working on an older version, this will still be significant for you. Couple of tips before we start. If you're a first-time user, when you install 2020, this is only on 2020, 2019 and below, do not do this. The system, depending on what license your company has, the system will set that up so that it can access Team Center. if it's trying to access a Teamcenter account and you don't have a Teamcenter account, you can go to the Start menu and click on Choose PDM Integration. This will be under the Siemens Solid Edge 2020 pull down. In your Start menu on Windows, pick Choose PDM Integration and select Solid Edge with File Management. This is the Solid Edge without using Teamcenter. Another thing that's, actually this was introduced a couple of releases ago, but if you download the Solid Edge software and install it, if you don't have a license, you can click here, and what this will do is put you into viewer mode or our free 2D drafting mode, which is what we use for viewer mode. So for managers who just want to be able to view inside Solid Edge, you do not have to pay for an extra license. You can just install Solid Edge software onto your computer and use this option here. So launching Solid Edge, you can launch it from the Start menu, the Windows Start menu. Just go down to Siemens, and then underneath the Siemens Solid Edge 2020, you'll just launch your Solid Edge. Or if you install it with a desktop icon, you can launch it from there. When you first launch it, this is what it's going to look like. We call this our blank startup page. And under there, you're going to access the application menu. The application menu is up in the corner, and you can select various options from here. For brand new files, you're going to click on New, and you'll be given a list of templates based on the standard that you selected when you installed the system. By the way, we'll talk a little bit about Solid Edge options a little bit later on, but this can be predefined in your options under your Helpers tab onto which page you want to start up with. Now, it's important to note Solid Edge is an environmental approach type system. We don't use the toolbox approach like many other systems do. We actually separate parts, assemblies, and drafts, and even in parts, we separate the part file versus a sheet metal file. Each of these have a unique extension. As you can see here, the part file is extended PAR, sheet metal, PSM, assembly, ASM, and draft, DFT. Now, each environment has its own set of templates. So again, I'm showing the ISO standard here, or metric. If I wanted to start a ISO part, I would select this template. These templates can be customized to your needs, and you can switch back and forth between different standards. So if I want to do Imperial for south of the border, I can use the ANSI standard. If I'm doing metric, I can use the ISO standard, as well as we have a few others. Plus, you can create your own custom standard as well. If you select on the new option, which would be at the top, it's not shown here, but it would be an icon above, and I'll be doing a demo shortly so you can see that. The new option takes you into the new template. So let's say I was set up as metric, but I wanted to do an imperial drawing or imperial part. I would go to new, I would select the ANSI inch, for example, and then here I could select one of the templates that are set up in our standard. So I would select the, if I went up to here, it would show me an an ANSI inch part here instead of the isometric, which is highlighted here. So switching between them is easy. Once you open the part environment, and that's what we're going to look at initially, you will see this, most likely this style default. This will not be visible on the screen at the moment. You'll have to bring this up. But let's just go through the different settings here. So as I mentioned before, once you launch your Solid Edge, you will have your application button up in the top left corner. We then have our quick access toolbar. And again, I'll be demoing this after the next slide. The quick access toolbar is where you can customize all your settings very quickly and easily, so you can add different commands here that you use on a regular basis. There's some predefined or favorite commands already set up here. We then have our ribbon bars. These ribbon bars, just like you would see in Microsoft Office or Outlook, can be changed by clicking on the tabs across the top. Each ribbon bar is grouped, as you can see by these divider lines here. There's these groups, and each group has a series of commands in them. If you see a little black arrow either under or beside a command, it means it has a pop-down menu with additional commands on it. The Pathfinder, initially it's floating. You can change that. You can dock it. The Pathfinder in the synchronous environment is a list of the features or face sets, as we call them, that have been created in synchronous. In the ordered environment, they're your history of features. We will be discussing the difference between the two as we go through the course. Help button up here. If you click on this help button, it'll put a help dialog down the side resource here. If this is grayed out, then look for the, on the resource bar, look for the fly out menu for the help section. The prompt bar down at the bottom here. This is when you're not sure what to do, always read the prompt bar. It's amazing the amount of information that's put in here. Command finder. If you can't find a command, type it in here and it will pop up a menu and tell you where the command is. And if it happens to be in this environment, it will even flash on the screen where it is. Command finder also supports terminology from AutoCAD and SolidWorks users. So for example, we do something called a thin wall. In AutoCAD, they call it a shell. So if you type in shell, it will show you our thin wall. The view tools, these are also available on the view tab, but for ease of use, we've put them down here for quick access as you're working in your display screen. Our quick view cube, very handy for quickly rotating and getting pre-named or predefined views. And finally, the collapsed edge bar panels. All the other panels that you may need as you go through the various options and various environments are collapsed. I'll show you in a minute how you can expand those. So this is the default screen. And as I said, when you first open it up, this is probably what you'll be greeted with. Now this is customizable, and the customized interface can be set up. Excuse me. The customized interface can be set up by each user. It does not travel with the file, so each user can have his own customizable view to suit his needs. This view is saved in the profile of the user. So when you uninstall Solid Edge, say you're using 2019, you uninstall that and install 2020, the user will not lose his user settings. They'll be saved in his profile. So let's bring Solid Edge into the picture here. And as I said, when you first go in, if it's a brand new install, you'll see something like this. Click on the application button and you'll notice we have the various pages here. I'm going to go to the new page here and I will go in. And as I said, if I notice I've installed this with ISO standard, if you click on the edit list, you can quickly change that standard by clicking one button. And now I'm into ANSI standard. Again, I'll do that one more time. Let's go back to metric. And I'm back to metric default standard. I'm going to go in and launch my part here. Now you'll notice a little bit of a lag time here when I'm working in Solid Edge. It's because I'm running the Zoom meeting, and it takes about 2 or 3 seconds longer because of the Zoom meeting. So here's our main interface if you first open up. And I'm not a big fan of this interface for training. For working in it, it's great, but if you're learning, I'm going to set this up the way I do for the fundamental course. So you can see two things. Number one, how to set up your interface. And number two, this hopefully what I think is an easier interface for people who are new to the software. So to do the setup, if I'm in an older version, I will go to application menu and I will go down to settings and I'll click on my options. If I'm in 2020, we have the options put up here on the menu. So you can just click on here and it'll take you directly into the Solid Edge options. I go to my helpers tab. And this is where I can predefine a lot of settings. For example, I don't want to start on the blank page. Every time I go in, I tend to do a lot of new work, for example. So I'll select start with the new page. Next time I launch Solid Edge, it'll automatically go to my template page. If I'm learning Solid Edge, I may want to start on the learn page. Or if I'm doing a lot of work on parts that are already existing, I can start with the open page. So you have those settings there. What environment are you guys going to want to work in? If you tend to work in synchronous, you can select synchronous. Any new part in sheet metal will open up in the synchronous paradigm. Remember, or if you don't know, I will show you how you can switch inside of the environment too. Or you can open up in the more traditional ordered. A lot of people ask me, John, what should I use, synchronous or ordered? I always say yes. You should use both. And we'll talk more about that later. Under here, this is the general setting here. I'm going to go in and change this to I'm going to turn off this document view. Now, if you're following along here, and if I'm going too fast, I apologize, but I have a set window. At the end, I will give you a downloadable link where you can download. I've put this into an exercise format, so you can download it and repeat exactly what I'm doing here. Under the command buttons here, I leave on my basic tooltips or even the enhanced. If you're brand new, you can show video clips. I find these get annoying really quick, so I have mine turned off. This is our command interface. I'm going to switch that to a vertical window. And this is something called gestures. I'm going to turn gestures off for now. We'll talk about that in a second. And I'm going to say apply and OK. Now you'll notice right away, first thing is that our command bar, or Pathfinder I should say, is now turned into a docking window or a dockable window. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fly open this here, and there's a little thumb tack here. It looks like a thumbtack called auto hide. I'm going to bring that out, and I'm going to put the Pathfinder into this panel here. Notice as I go over how it snaps to tell me it's going to be part of it. Now I have my entire edge bar all set up here. Now I'm going to move this over here. And notice as I drag it over and sit over the key and release, it locks there. And if I pick this key here, it does something similar. But notice if I pick a center key, it gives precedent to the prompt bar. Excuse me, if I pick the outer key, it gives precedent to the window itself. Now, I've been accused of being stuck in the 80s, putting my history tree on the right side. I do this for a reason, because I leave my select over here. Now this select window is actually my command ribbon bar here. This is the one that I set to a vertical window. And if I pick on a command, you'll notice that all my commands appear here, all my options in that command appear here with text beside each icon. If I go back into here and I choose to use this as a horizontal toolbar, when I click on the command, it comes up as a horizontal toolbar. Now this does give me more screen space, but if I'm learning the system, I don't know the name of the icons. I have to hover over each of these to get the names to come up. So I find when I'm teaching the fundamental course, it's often easier for students who are learning the system to use the vertical docking window as the command bar. Now, when I'm working in it, I'll turn this off and go to horizontal, but for teaching and learning, I find this to be the better option. If you're going to turn on your base reference planes, just click there. You can hide the coordinate system if you don't want to use it. You have the option of using all or none or both or one at a time. Across the top, your ribbon bars. Notice as we switch, depending on your licensing, you may see slightly different ones than you see here. One of the nice commands up here that I like is this construction display. You'll notice that I have it added up to my quick access toolbar. That can be quickly added or removed from the toolbar. So if I right click and select the command, I say add to the quick access toolbar. And if I right click on here, and I can say remove from the quick access toolbar. So here you can add this as many commands as will fit on your window you can put up here. It just saves you from switching through the different windows. As I mentioned, we also have a radio menu. The radio menu comes by holding down your right mouse button, and then you move up onto the command that you want to zoom in on. For in this case, zoom. I'm going to click release, and I can now go in and zoom into the area. Use my radio menu button, and I can go back to fit. So again, you hold down the mouse, it brings up the radio menu, you highlight the command you want to do, and that activates the command. These commands are customizable. I'm not going to go into detail how to show all this customizing capability, but I will point you in the right direction. So notice here we have on the quick access menu down the side, we have the customize, and you can go in here and you can customize your keyboard, so your hotkeys, your quick access menu, your ribbons, and your radio menu. And what you can basically do is pick a command, slide it, drag it over, and place it. Let's say, for example, I wanted to put the overlapping capability, and I just go in and put it into where I want. Save this as a theme so you can switch back and forth from your regular theme to your theme. As I said, we also have our quick view down here. There's your home button. Here's your switching around. And you can rotate. Very useful command. If I go in and launch a command here, you'll notice all of the options in that command will appear, and I can go in and start working with my, I'm going to create just a simple shape here, and we'll go in and make our extrusion here. So this only becomes active when you're inside of a command here. As I said, the command finder, let's say I wanted to find a shell command. I type in shell. Notice that it shows me the thin wall, and if I hover over it, I can launch it from here, or it's showing me where it is up here. I can go in and activate my thin wall command here and create a thin box out of this cube. Here's my view commands down here, so I can fit the window, rotate, and everything. We also have a lot of mouse commands, so scrolling in and out, I can hold down the middle scroll wheel. Now the cool thing about this is all documented inside of our help section, which I'll talk about in a minute. I also want to point out across the bottom here is the prompt bar. Make sure you read that. It's amazing the number of tech calls I get if somebody doesn't know what to do, and I'll say, what does the prompt bar say? And it tells them exactly what they should be doing. Here's the, I call this my over 40 button. If you're starting to lose your eyesight, you click on this and this will bump up the text for you there. So again, this is our main interface. Now, as I said, just want to point out a couple more things here. On the application button here, you'll notice we have a tab called Info. Info allows us to go in and look at some of the other properties in here, for example, material table. If you wish to assign a material table or a material from the material table to a part, you can go in and let's say this is stainless steel. It'll give it a style. It'll put in all the properties and you simply apply to the model and this will turn this into a stainless steel part. If you want to do mass property calculations later on, you can do that, assuming of course that all the information is correct. Solid Edge uses the engineering handbook to populate those tables. If you're not happy with that, you have the option of creating your own custom table, modifying existing tables, and or changing just individual property elements. You'll notice that over here, we have, it now says material, stainless steel. I can double click on this. It'll take me back into the material table and allow me to go in and maybe change the material and apply to the model. We also, by right clicking on this, you will get a pull down menu. What's listed as recent materials will show up, favorite materials, or again, access to the material table from here. Also in that info section, we have the file properties. Here's where you can store all your non-graphic information, all the way up to custom settings or custom properties. This allows you to populate this based on your company's needs. This information can later be used for things like bill of materials, graphic parts list, search capability, text callouts, and so forth. So enter it once and use it many times. Now with those two commands, we have additional options available to us. If your company requires that every part or sheet metal part have a property assigned to them, you can turn this option on in the Solid Edge Options General tab. What this does is allows you to prompt, it'll automatically prompt you for a material. So when you first open up a new template, the material table pops up automatically and wants you to put in a value or select a material. If your company requires that you put on a file property information on every file, so you put in as much non-graphic information as you have, you can turn this option on here. And it says prompt for file properties on first save. So the first time I go to save this part, I'll go save. It's going to bring up the file property information here. So I could type in title, subject, manager. I could put in document numbers, revision numbers, make this a hardware part if I was making a nut, bolt, or whatever. I could turn on preview options. I could even put in custom property information here. Once you've filled this out, you say okay, and then you're prompted to give the file a name and a location on where you want to save this information. So I'm just going to save this. You can type in a name, for example, box. Notice I do not have to put in the extension. It will automatically put it in for me. To close this, you simply go up and click on the close button there, and it closes it. We use the tabulated windows across the top so you can have multiple windows open up in the session. The more windows you have, the more drain on your graphics card. If you don't have a good graphics card, you'll probably be able to open 2 or 3 at the same time. If you have a really good one, you can open as many as the memory capability allows you to. If you start to see pixelation, that's when you're realizing you're pushing your graphics card. To open a file that already exists, notice we have a list of recent files that are saved here, or you can simply browse to where you saved that file. Select the file type here. Notice the different file types that we have, including other CAD systems, for example, AutoCAD, CATIA, Pro-E. Now, to open up the CATIA files, you will have to pay extra for that translator. They're the only ones that charge extra. Everything else is built in. So Inventor, if you're opening up Inventor files, you do have to have the latest free Inventor viewer installed. Pro-E, SolidWorks, Step, so Parasolid, the Parasolid files. So lots of options, okay? NX documents, NX being our big brother. Of course, we work very well with them. So if you can't see the file that you put there, make sure your file type is correct. Select it and say open. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to show you about customizing this is the background view. If you can either do this going up through view and view overrides, or you can simply right click on the background view and go to view overrides here, and you can change the color. If it's gradient, you can maybe go to something like a sky blue, or if you prefer the solids, you can change this to a solid color. Now, this does have to be set up in your template if you're using the gradient. If you pick the solid colors, it'll probably stay solid for you. If you pick unless it's saved in your template, if you pick a gradient, you have to save that in your template. Now, just before we leave here, I'll come back and we'll talk about this in a minute, but I just wanted to point out where it is. If I collapse this, it'll show up on here. So if you're calling in for tech help and we tell you to click on Learn Solid Edge tab, this is what we're referring to. You can check your version of Solid Edge by reading here. The first 3 numbers are the version of the software. So right now we're on 2020, so we have 220. The third set of numbers is the maintenance pack or service pack that you're on. Right now, 2020 is out, has Service Pack 5 out. If you do not know how to download and install the service packs, please contact our tech line or send a request to support@designfusion.com, and we will send you a PDF on how to do this. So let's get rid of Solid Edge for a second here, and let's get back to our PowerPoint. So as I pointed out, opening an existing document, you go to the Open tab, select Browse, select the document or the file file folder that you want and the document you want. Remember to make sure your file types are set to all Solid Edge documents until you get comfortable with this. Saving a document, all you have to do is hit save. The first time you hit save, it'll prompt you for a location and a name of the file. And if you have turned on the save option to bring up the file properties, you'll first be prompted for this type of information, your file property information, and you can put in as little or as much as you desire. Remember, this information, if you're going to be using this information, you might as well put it in now because it's going to get used over and over again. Enter it once, use it many times. To close a document, we use the tab system. They'll show across the top how many you have open. You can simply click on the X to close it. This will close the document but keep you in the Solid Edge session. If you are going to use multiple documents, please do it all in the same session. If you launch multiple sessions, you're using multiple Solid Edge licenses. And if you're in a large company that has a set number of licenses and you end up opening 3 of them, you're not going to be very popular with your colleagues. The close options that we have here, instead of clicking here, if you right click, it gives you additional options. So you could, for example, close all but this, close all the windows, and so forth. As I mentioned, the material table, this can be accessed from the Info tab, or you can access it from your Pathfinder where you can click on Material Table. Information in here, we've tried to be as accurate as possible in the assembly of this. We base it on the engineer's handbook. If it's not accurate, you have the option, or accurate to your standards, you have the option of changing it here. You can also create additional libraries, by the way, if necessary. Under the Solid Edge options, which can be found in settings, options, I showed you this. Here's where you can go in and set up your interface. There's literally hundreds of options in here. We'll point out some of them through this, but if you take our full-blown course, or you can do something real simple, just click the help button right here, and it'll tell you what all these options will do. Now, as I said, the goal of this is to help you get started before you attend a fundamental course. Hopefully you will still attend a fundamental course. I've had students who have taught themselves Solid Edge and still ended up coming to the fundamental course. I had one student who had been doing Solid Edge for 8 years, and he came to the course and we did several tips and tricks in the course, and he said, "When did you guys put that in?" I said, "Well, it's been in for like 10 years. He says, "Oh, I wish I knew that 8 years ago." So there's a lot of stuff that you can pick up at our courses. However, to get you started, the help section is probably one of the best I've ever seen on the market. The only one that comes close or rivals this, I would say, would be AutoCAD. There's great help information under Solid Edge, the Solid Edge overview here. You can also hover over the command. So let's bring Solid Edge back here, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So I can actually go to a command here, and I can hover over it and just hit F1, and that'll launch the my internet here and bring up my help, and it takes me right to that command. Notice there's a lot of information down the side here. So for example, how do you construct a base feature? This is extrude command. You can click on the links here. You can type in and search for different commands and so forth. So it's very helpful, and like I said, one of the best I've seen. The command finder, and also great source for helping you find commands. And when it brings up the command finder, there's the link to launch the help documentation. I want to focus a little bit on this Learn page here for new users. There is quite a bit of information inside here to help you get started. At the end, I'll give you links to the specific information um, for this session. But let's go back, let's bring back our Solid Edge here. And let me just drag it back over. And we'll close out of here and we'll go back to that Learn page. So here's the tour of the interface that I've just given you. If you click on here, it'll take you into the help section and give you a tour of the interface, a little more detailed perhaps than what I've done. It also includes the synchronous tools that I haven't included in this session here. You'll also notice we have quick reference cards, what's new, recommending learning paths here. If you go to here, you'll notice that we have, if you're new to CAD, if you're a SolidWorks user coming over to Solid Edge, or if you're transitioning to synchronous, we have different learning paths set up for you. You will be getting a lot of links throughout the course to the self-paced training here. If you click on the self-paced training, you'll notice here is your user interface basics. Click here and you can launch the user interface basic course and just go through this course, and it'll give you a really good coverage of what's new or what's needed to know in using our interface. Okay, there's even little activities built in here. I will be creating links to this at the end, which you'll see. And when we post, when we put this up, we will, you'll be able to have the links. I'll stay on the link page if you want to try to take a snapshot of them, or if you want, you can email us on our support line and I will send you a page with all the links for each session on it as the sessions are created. We've got the first 4 created, so I can send those links off to you. And these are the links I'm referring to. So I'm going to stay on this page for a minute and let you have take a snapshot of it if you want. The first activity is an activity that I created, and you'll be able to download this from our FTP site. And it's the activity that I did in the demo where you'll be able to set up your custom interface there. So when I was moving those windows around and so forth, you can grab this and redo that exercise. In the Solid Edge self-paced training, there's the user interface course that I showed you there. There's the direct link to it. And there's the direct link to our the tour of the Solid Edge interface that I showed you there. Some other great sources for information. If you want to see a lot of live demos, you can go to our YouTube channel. I believe eventually we'll be putting these webinars up there. I'm not sure how quickly that'll happen, but we'll have to edit the recording to take out some of the beginning waiting time there. And then, of course, there's our website and our blog. We constantly putting up tips and tricks and new information on our blog, which will allow you to go through and peruse the content at your leisure. Some of these are videos, some of them are written articles, but we get a lot of response from people on our blog. I'm just going to go in now and launch our web page here and just show you some of that. I'll come back to this link page in a second. If we go up to designfusion.com, and this is the COVID-19 response page that I was telling you about. And here's the Solid Edge webinar schedule. Some of you, I may have sent this to you already. If you talked to me or emailed me on Friday, I've sent you the updated links. So here's the links for all the remaining sessions with the new dates. Again, skipping over the Good Friday there. Here's what we and Siemens are doing for the COVID-19. We will provide a license that you can work from home. This license will be good until the end of May. If it's 2020, it expires on May 28th. If it's 2019 or less, I think it's roughly the same date. It might be May 30th. This license, we don't need your CID. It'll go on any laptop that supports Solid Edge. And there's the minimum system requirements for Solid Edge is listed there. The preferred requirements are listed there. We call it the COVID-19 license. I don't know why they call it that. I assume because it is like COVID-19, it'll infect any computer. So, or you can put it on any computer. And it'll match the license that you have right now. So if you have Classic in the office, you can get a Classic license for at home if you've been designated to work from home. It's a lot easier than trying to VPN in. You can still VPN in and download your files, but you don't have to VPN in and access a license. If you would like one of these licenses and you're on a maintenance paying customer with Solid Edge or with Design Fusion, please contact us. If you're not with Design Fusion, but with another reseller, because we've opened this up to everybody, please contact your reseller. If they're not helpful, then feel free to contact us and we'll become your reseller. And as I said, our blog, a lot of information here. In fact, there's the article about the pandemic. Lots of information, and you can just cycle through the pages here. Lots of videos, tips and tricks. This is from our last 2020 presentations that we went across the country doing. So there's part 1 and part 2. A lot of information here. And of course, after you finish this, you may think that hopefully you'll see what a taste of our training capabilities, and you can contact your account manager or sign up for some of these trainings. Now, some of these trainings we will be forced to do it virtually until the pandemic has passed. If you need training, we can set up and do it virtually. We did a training course last week virtually. It's not perfect. We're still working out a few of the kinks, but it seems to be well received that way too. My preference, of course, is to have the classroom training, but with our virtual training, we can still hook up and look at individual computers when they're having problems and help you out. So for the time being, virtual training is our only option. Once that passes, we can do you can come to one of our training sites, or if we don't have a training site in the local area, for example, in Alberta, we use a place in Red Deer for training, and it works out very nicely. So now it's Q&A. I'm going to unmute all the mics. Now, hopefully we won't have a fight to see who's going to talk first. So please feel free to ask questions. If you don't have any questions that you want to say out loud, feel free to send a question to our support at designfusion.com, or if you wish a license, COVID license, again, here's where you send the thing to. I know a lot of you out there may prefer to deal with a certain individual. We are strongly encouraging our customers to use the support at designfusion.ca so nothing slips through the cracks. So we have a few minutes left, so do we have any questions? No questions? Boy, I'm a better teacher than I thought. Our next session, April 10th, which is tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're going to go in through basic sketching. This will be ordered sketching. And as I said, full meeting links are available on our website. So click onto that website, grab the list of the PDF, or you can send a request to our support@designfusion.com and we'll email you that PDF with all the links on it.
Tomorrow's the 7th.
Is tomorrow the 7th? Oh, you're right. Sorry. I must have been, I put this together on the weekend. I must have been half asleep. So April 7th. Bear with me 1 second. We'll make a real quick change. And, geez, I thought I checked everything. It's a good thing somebody's paying attention.
And I guess it's on the same time frame?
Yes, 10 a.m. Yep, 10 a.m. We'll be going through the sketching, and hopefully we can teach you a few tricks. Again, this is not replacing fundamentals, but it is giving you a good start. You may even those who have been using Solid Edge for a while may pick up a few tips and tricks as we go through it. So if there's no further questions, we'll end this meeting. Tomorrow will be a little bit longer because we are getting into a little bit more information, a little bit more detailed information of actually creating sketches. And just to review, there's the complete list. And as I said, we're going 7th, 8th, and 9th this week. Good Friday will be off. Then we'll be back the following Monday and picking up the rest of the information there. So thank you for joining us. If you do have questions, feel free to email the support@designfusion.com. And I hopefully will see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.